الأرض ومغاربها، سهلها وجبلها وبرها وبحرها، وعني وعن والدي من الصلوات، زنة عرش الله ومداد كلماته، وما أحصاه علمه وأحاط به كتابه. اللهم إني أجدد له في صبيحة يومي هذا، وما عشت من أيامي عهدا وعقدا وبيعة له في عنقي، لا أحول عنها ولا أزول أبدا. اللهم اجعلني من أنصاره وأعوانه والذابين عنه والمسارعين إليه في قضاء حوائجهم والممتثلين لأوامره والمحامين عنه والسابقين إلى إرادته والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم إن حال بيني وبينه الموت الذي جعلته على عبادك حتما مقضيا، فأخرجني من قبري معتزرا كفني شاهرا سيفي، مجردا قناتي ملبيا دعوة الداعي في الحاضر والبادي. اللهم أرني الطلعة الرشيدة والغرة الحميدة، واكحل ناظري بنظرة مني إلي، وعجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه وأوسع منهجه واسلك بي محجته، وأنفذ أمره واشدود أزره، واعمر اللهم به بلادك وأحيي به عبادك، فإنك قلت وقولك الحق. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس، فأظهر اللهم لنا وليك وابن بنت نبيك المسمى باسمك ورسولك، حتى لا يظفر بشيء من الباطل إلا مزقه ويحق الحق ويحققه، واجعله اللهم مفزعا لمظلوم عبادك، وناصرا لمن لا يجد له ناصرا غيرك، ومجددا لما عطل من أحكام كتابك، ومشيدا لما ورد من أعلام دينك وسنن نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله، واجعله اللهم ممن حصنته من بأس المعتدين، اللهم وسر نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وآله برؤيته ومن تبعه على دعوته، وارحم استكانتنا بعده، اللهم اكشف هذه الغمة عن هذه الأمة بحضوره، وعجل لنا ظهوره، إنهم يرونه بعيدا ونراه قريبا، برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. العجل العجل يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان، العجل العجل يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان، العجل العجل يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان، اللهم عجل وقرب في فرج مولانا صاحب الزمان يا الله، وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
Assalamu alaikum ya sahib al-zaman. Of course, on a Friday, we often connect with Imam al-Mahdi ajallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Now, if you're just joining us, welcome to the show. Early in the season of Morning Baraka, I brought on a guest who had a bit of a personal journey of realization and change. His name was Dr. Mahmoud Mawji. He pursued his dream, alhamdulillah, good on him. He's done a lot better for himself. Similarly, young people increasingly being influenced by successful entrepreneurs who made a name for themselves by pursuing their own dreams, along with many other reasons as well. But my guest today didn't do just that. He wrote a book about it. Now, writing a book in any genre is a task that has a plethora of challenges. Self-doubt, fear of criticism, investing time and energy into something that might not be accepted, rejection, negative feedback, the list goes on. But if you get it right, it could be one of the most rewarding endeavors ever. Now, I'm delighted to have with me business author and coach Hassan Kubba, who underwent a journey of self-discovery quite early in his life and emerged from the other side with an award-winning business book.
Let me talk about myself. So when I had the job in the city for a while after I graduated, very briefly, I didn't like having a job. And my dream was to start my own business I'd heard about people creating passive incomes within their businesses and be able to travel and have free time, and it sounded amazing. And then I thought, I'm actually going to do it. Like, I'm actually going to leave the job. And that picture is of me on the day that I quit my job. Like, I was so happy. And then fast forward 2 years of hard work, grit, determination. I mean, I'd grown up in a modest family, and I loved reading self-development books about whatever you can conceive, you can achieve. And I kind of took that path. I set a goal. And it was really tough. No one can tell you that it's easy.
Hassan, assalamu alaikum. How are you? Hope all is well.
I'm good.
Thank you very, very much for coming onto the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, my research, the questions I asked you before today's live, you sent me a video or two, and I was very interested in that specific talk because, as well as the introduction in terms of the unfair advantage, and we'll talk about the book in a second, but you did mention kind of a journey of self-realization. But before all that, I'd love to kind of first and foremost get a bit of an understanding about who you are, and your journey as an author.
Sure. So I'm Hassan Kubba. I was born in Baghdad in Iraq. I grew up here in London. I came here when I was young. And I kind of was good at school, but I didn't know what I wanted to do after. I never kind of thought of myself as a natural entrepreneur. I never thought that this is definitely the path for me. I'm just going to do that. I just had no clue, but I knew I didn't want that kind of typical rat race kind of thing. I don't know, there's some idea of like going on that, in London we have the tube, and it can be packed like sardines in the morning, and I don't know, something about that didn't appeal to me. And I just thought, I want to do something different. I came across an online course about how to set up an online business, and it was expensive. it was a huge bit of savings that I had from uni.
Really?
It was $2,000. So at that time, with inflation, I think that's like $4,000 now. I don't know.
No way.
But I did it. Everyone told me that's a scam. You're not going to do that. But essentially, it was how to set up your own business and make a passive income. It just sounds too good to be true. But then I started researching, and I was like, oh no, actually, this makes sense. It's a real business. It's not just some weird scammy thing. So I took that course, but then I was too scared to get started. It took me about 2 years to actually get going. And I had some jobs, some roles in sales. We were actually discussing just before this, some things like that. Eventually, I got there. Alhamdulillah, I got there. And it was just, the idea was like, oh, I've made my own business. I've done my own thing. And from there, it's kind of grown, and I've started to help other entrepreneurs. I've learned all about marketing. And then I wrote this book, which I never thought I'd write a book. I thought maybe when I'm an old man, I'd write a book about something in the future.
Right.
But I met my co-author, Ash Ali. He was the first marketing director of Just Eat. And together, I was like to him, we could do better with this. And we never thought we'd get a publishing deal. Honestly, we never thought that would happen. But alhamdulillah, that's what happened. We got a publishing deal. The book came out January 2020. We had a big book launch. We had all these talks planned at big universities and all these things. And then suddenly we go into lockdown. Everything's cancelled. And we're like, that's it. It's not going to work out, but that's okay.
Ash, was he a good friend of yours before the idea of the book came about? Or did you guys meet on a more business?
It was more of a friendship kind of thing. It was like a business networking event, which I rarely go to actually, but we both met there. He rarely does that kind of thing. But then we just sort of became friends, and he was talking to me about this idea of writing a book, that everyone's telling him to write a book. And I was like, yeah, that's a nice idea. He's like, yeah, I've come up, I'm thinking about this thing. And I'm like, no, we could do so much more. We can make this bigger. I started getting more and more involved until I became the co-author on the book. And I
say that because a lot of the times, and especially our viewers who have quite large friend circles, and they have peers that they get along with, they'll go to school with, university with, maybe even work with, they'll never think of actually going into a business venture together. So I was just wondering, in terms of Ash, was he just a friend that you had before this? Or was it like a really close friend they thought, I can actually trust this guy to co-author something?
Yeah, so it wasn't like a childhood friend or something. We met later, but we traveled together a little bit. my business was making passive income at that time. He had just had a IPO, so it was on the public market. He made a lot of money from that. And so kind of had this free time to just kind of, hey, check out Southeast Asia. Why don't you go there? Why don't you come here? He had a startup in Dubai. And so it was just a friendship at that point. And then he started talking more and more about this, and we considered all these business ideas to start. It ended up being this book, and that's how it went forward.
So the unfair advantage, tell us about that.
So the unfair advantage is this idea that success in life, in business, in almost any field, isn't just purely about your merit. It isn't purely about how hard you work. It isn't purely about the sweat, blood, and tears that you put into it. That plays a role, but it's not enough. What actually a better way to describe success is unfair advantages. Now, unfair doesn't mean unethical or illegal.
Because that's the first thing that comes to your mind, but okay.
But what it means is it's just you have a head start in some way. For some reason, you have some kind of head start.
By focusing on your
in
merits.
some kind of field. So for example, there's a lot of people who you see them successful entrepreneurs, stuff like that. If you dig into the story, it's their dad's business. That they might have grown, they might have taken it forward, they might have a lot of skills. Not taking away anything from their skills, but they don't necessarily like talking about the fact that they received all this money, or even inheritance. Let's just talk about in a very simple monetary terms. People don't really talk often about the inheritance that they received. They'll often just talk about the hard work that they put in. So that's just one unfair advantage, is money. But we break down 5 different categories of unfair advantages. And there's lots of different ways that you can use unfair advantages, that you can have unfair advantages. For example, one of them is location and luck, which is right place, right time. And that plays a huge role. I was in the right place at the right time. It's a big factor in success. So it's not just hard work, it's also luck. And it's about identifying your unfair advantages, because everybody has them, and then doubling down, focusing on those. And that's the concept of the book.
And the book won a lot of awards.
Yeah.
Can you name a few?
So we won the business, we won the Startup Book of the Year. Which was like mind-blowing. We didn't think we'd done that. And then there was like 12 different categories of non-fiction books. Then we won the winner of all the categories. So the Business Book of the Year as well, which is like really blew our minds away. It was really, really cool. So for alhamdulillah, that's the success. And then also what's even better is it started bringing in really positive reviews on Amazon. So other than like critics aside, like actual readers and commercially, it became, I guess, not like we can get into that in terms of books don't actually make a lot of money. So people think books make, I was going to say commercially, books don't make a lot of money, but you get exposure through a book.
If I wanted to just the unfair advantage, brothers and sisters, the unfair advantage. Sorry.
So what I'm really more proud of is the reader reviews. So you go on Amazon or you go on Bookreads, and there's like thousands of like 5-star
What opportunities
reviews.
does that unlock in terms of readers and reviews?
So speaking events, I've been doing quite a bit of speaking, but mostly for me, I've been really enjoying coaching. So I've been doing one-to-one and group coaching, helping people to level up in their businesses, whether YouTubers, that's an interesting niche that I've gone into, is YouTubers and like kind of social media influencers who are teaching something, like educational influencers. Other authors or aspiring authors who want to write a book and want to get a publishing deal. That's become a really interesting area. And the topic of the book is actually mostly about tech startups. So about online businesses, apps, these kinds of things. So that's the other area. So these are the areas that I work in.
And we spoke about this off air, but there are Islamic themes, undertones.
Exactly.
Explain that.
So I grew up reading a lot of self-development books.
Yeah.
There's a lot of books out there, about how if you set goals and you work hard and you put together some strategies, then you can achieve what you can dream of, which is great. Honestly, that's a great message. I think those books are very, very positive influences.
Yeah.
But they're missing one thing. They're missing the idea that we don't all start at the same starting line. We don't all have the same circumstances. We don't have the same personalities, the same strengths, the same situations in life. And so that's what this book is addressing, is the fact that it's not all you succeeded, you did it, which can be an empowering mindset, but you're forgetting about the creator. You're forgetting about Allah. You're forgetting about things that are not in your control. And that's essentially what we're talking about. We're talking about it's not all hard work and merit, but it's also luck and fate and destiny and qadar and these kinds of things. So that's where the Islamic component comes in.
Do you quote anything Islamic?
Yeah.
Anything Quranic, maybe?
There's a quote. So it's kind of it's a mainstream book. It's not an Islamic book.
That's what I'm saying. Okay,
But I
cool.
put in a quote from Imam Ali alayhi salam.
Nice.
For about, because there's different categories of unfair advantages.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just quickly touch on those.
Go on.
It's basically, the framework is MILES. MILES.
Miles.
Is the acronym.
Right.
M is for money. Straightforward. If you have money, that's an unfair advantage. Or if you can raise money easily. I is intelligence and insight. Intelligence and insight. All different types of intelligences. You could be book smart. You could be street smart. You could be social, creative, emotional, intelligent. All different types. And insights. When you see a problem that you can solve, that's insight. L is location and luck. Right place, right time. Touched on that one. E is education and expertise.
Okay.
Which is very important. And because everyone thinks of like university dropouts and stuff like that,
Yeah.
education is very, very important. It doesn't need to be formal.
Yeah.
Well, it could be. It could be formal education.
Yeah.
S is the most powerful one, status.
Okay.
It's how you come across, how people perceive you, who you know, who's in your network.
Yeah.
Status. Status is
Right.
huge. So those are the 5 categories. For the chapter on education, we have Imam Ali quote about how wealth is, knowledge. And,
Okay.
and poverty is ignorance.
Right.
So that's the quote that we've got in there.
Fantastic
But the
stuff.
idea is very Islamic because one of the major themes is gratitude.
Okay.
Let's focus on what you have rather than what you don't have. You have to say Alhamdulillah, you have to be grateful. It's been shown in scientific studies
Yeah.
that gratitude really helps. And so that's one of the key messages of the book is gratitude.
On your journey, are there any specific kind of rituals or routines or the writing process that you have?
So I was spoken to a lot of writers.
Okay.
So I never thought of myself as a writer.
Yeah.
English was my weakest subject actually at school.
Yeah.
So I was like science and maths. But I think what helped me to write well is studying marketing. Marketing is all about, people don't think of it like that. I used to think marketing is this weird, unethical thing. It could be, but it's actually about empathy. Marketing and even sales is actually about empathy. You have to know how the other person's feeling, what the other person might be thinking.
Okay.
So writing well is actually a lot about, can you get into the heads of your readers?
Yeah.
Can you get into their minds? Can you understand what they might be thinking, what they might be confused about,
Yeah.
where their head might be at?
Yeah.
So I was speaking to a lot of writers. So this is, I guess I have to consider myself a writer now, because now I actually really enjoy it and that's
Yeah.
something I do. But we all have very different rituals. Some people are slow and steady. They write a little bit every day. And some people, it's all about their deadlines. And for me, I'm in the second category.
Okay.
For me, that publisher deadline was magic in getting me to be super productive.
Right.
And so for me, it was like cram writing. It was like I wrote, so people are a bit surprised. Writers, they'll often spend years writing a book.
Yeah.
We will work on the book for years in terms of a concept.
Yeah.
Conceptually, we will work on the book for years. The actual writing, the whole thing was done in about 4 months. So,
wow.
which is really fast.
Yeah.
But that's because Ash, my co-author, was brilliant and he pushed me, which was, I didn't appreciate at the time.
Yeah.
But now I do. And having that publisher deadline was really powerful in getting me to write more. So I think accountability is a very powerful thing, which is
Yeah.
actually something I got into in coaching. Coaching is all about clarity and accountability, and that's what helps.
Publishers themselves, are they easy to work with? And how do you get even in contact with publishers?
So
How does it work?
Getting a publishing deal is really hard. It's actually some
Really
of those
hard.
things really difficult.
Yeah.
It's first you have to get a literary agent. Usually you
Okay.
have an agent first. The agent pitches you to the publisher.
Right.
Most publishers don't take you seriously if you don't have an agent.
Right.
So just getting an agent is a coup in and of itself. It's like
No
a win.
way.
So we got an agent approach us.
Yeah.
And alhamdulillah, we got 3 different publisher offers, which is like mind blowing. And I think that's because of the uniqueness of the book concept. So working with publishers, most people think publishers are going to handle everything. They don't handle everything. They're very good at editing. They're very good at making a nice cover. They're very good at layouts, typesetting, all this stuff. Selling into bookshops. That's the
Okay.
amazing thing about publishers. You could self-publish. We also have it on Amazon. People can buy it.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be in bookshops. We were in the airport bookshops. People will see our book, which was amazing. So that's
Yeah.
the thing that was really cool. I'd get emails from people in Peru, in Switzerland, in Japan, who've read the book. And like, how? They
Phenomenal
see it in the
stuff,
bookshop, right?
Yeah.
So, so they're great at that, but they're not good at marketing. The marketing is all down to you as a writer. Like, they'll try and do a few things here, but that's not their strength. So most people think, oh my God, I thought I'd just write the book and that's it. No, the marketing background of me and my co-author really helped. So working with them was like great, but bear in mind, you have to do the marketing yourself.
I mean, it's really fascinating because mostly within our community, growing up in the Iraqi community, going to majalis and programs, and we all kind of know each other, and our dads know each other and all that stuff. it's like another world when it comes to this publishing and books and the business world. And yes, there are some of us who are successful in their businesses, but they're quite low key. Yeah. And they're trying to, they don't really want to be that famous or popular or even publish stuff or publish their work. So how does it make you feel being kind of the standout within our community, and actually going to a bookstore and seeing your name written on a book that's actually got, best-selling business book of the year and stuff like that? How does that make you feel?
Alhamdulillah, no, it's really good. It's something that you kind of, on the one side, you feel amazing about it, and then the other side, you think, what's next? Okay. So that's that typical thing of like, okay, what am I going to do next? What am I going to work on next? Yeah. But alhamdulillah, no, I'm very grateful for it. It's opened up a lot of doors, but it's not like, it's life-changing in terms of opening doors.
Yes.
But it's not life-changing commercially at all. You hardly make much money from it, writing a book. Even when the book is successful, alhamdulillah, unless you become you write Harry Potter or something.
Okay, that's different.
But other than that, you don't really make a lot of money from the book itself. Yeah. It just opens doors, it's just exposure. So it's like, now it's down to you to capitalize on that, which I haven't made the most of. And inshallah, I'm working on stuff to make the most of it.
Inshallah. For the dear viewers at home, if you've just joined us, you've missed the first part of a fascinating discussion with Hassan Kubba, business author and coach, or business coach and author?
Both.
Both. Sorry.
Yeah.
In any case, he's an expert when it comes to writing books. We have the unfair advantage right here. I've seen this online on LinkedIn, I've seen it on YouTube, I've seen it on different Instagram posts, and finally I have my own copy here. But anyway, so yeah, that's the unfair advantage. Don't go anywhere, brothers and sisters. I'm trying to get this balanced. Don't go anywhere, brothers and sisters, because after this break, we're going to continue a fantastic conversation with Hassan. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
More than 3,000 members of the Shia Hazara community have been killed since September 2011, according to reports.
Hundreds of Iraqi pilgrims arrive at the house of Grand Ayatollah Shirazi.
On Saturday, the Saudi authorities executed 21 people on other charges.
Taliban abusing humanitarian aid in Afghanistan.
Shia Rights Watch expresses its condemnation on the targeted bombings in the Iraqi capital Baghdad.
There is so much happening that now is the right moment to bring together the biggest stories in one place at one time. It's ambitious, it's a first for the Shia around the world. Join me, Ayoub Nueno, for Shia Waves, live only on Imam Hussein TV free.
Welcome back, dear brothers and sisters. You are watching Morning Baraka exclusively live on Imam Hussein TV 3. If you've just joined us, as I mentioned before the break, if you've just joined us, you've missed the first half of a fascinating discussion. However, you're in good luck, I would say, because we're still carrying on this brilliant conversation with business coach and author Hassan Kubba, who's joined me in the studio today in London. So Hassan, look, before the break, we talked about, I guess, your journey and how the beginnings of writing a book, the reasons why you wrote a book. There must have been certain challenges along the way. So could you share, I guess, some of the obstacles that you faced and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think the obstacles are sort of early on, because once you... the hardest part of writing a book is making the time to write the book.
Okay.
Because I've worked with a lot of other authors now who've, alhamdulillah, become successful with their books, gotten publishing deals, etc., and I've helped them through that journey. But usually the ones who struggle the most is the ones who, just to make the time to write. Because people have day jobs, people have businesses to run, people have things, and just usually what falls down the wayside is writing, because no one's paying you for it, no one's got a deadline for you for it. And that's why publishing deal was so valuable for me, because now I knew, okay, I don't want to let them down. I've got a deadline, I want to deliver. So usually the biggest obstacles, so number one is to understand that so some tips on book writing.
Yes.
Have one main idea that you want to share, one main big idea. Because when you have like a bunch of life lessons, or you start to go into stories, or you just throw everything in the kitchen sink into it, it doesn't work. You need a theme. Anything creative and successful needs a theme. It needs some kind of limitations. It needs some kind of barriers. So the first thing is to have a focused theme and concept for the book. That's usually a huge challenge, but people don't really know they have that challenge. They kind of go, yeah, I want to write a book, I want to do this, and they don't. Sometimes they just start and just spill what they know. But I often tell them, no, you need to have a good idea of what you want to cover, and that includes a good idea of what you're not going to cover. Save that for another book. So that's a huge obstacle that people get. Secondly, is the productivity side, which I touched on, is just to make the time to write the book.
Yeah.
After that, it's like, how do you get that in people's hands? That's harder than even writing a book is damn hard. Getting it in people's hands, getting the word out, getting people to buy the book is even harder. So these are, and then publishing deal is a whole other thing. It's like if you get a publishing deal, that's usually very, very difficult.
Right.
And you often need unfair advantages. We played the Just Eat thing a little bit.
Okay.
We played the concept of the book a bit. That helped us to have the network to get to know the literary agent. It's not easy. You need the intros.
You literally used the tips that you have in your book
Exactly.
for you to get that.
That's so true, because we even treated it like a tech startup.
Yeah.
It tries to get traction for their app.
Yeah.
Let's say Just Eat is trying to get its first restaurants and customers.
They
Need to growth hack the book, the business.
Yeah.
We did the same for the book. We treated it as a tech startup. We applied all our knowledge about tech startups, growth, marketing to the book.
Yeah.
And took that step by step.
Yeah.
So for example, what you recommend for businesses or for apps, you do a minimum viable product. So basically you do a very bare bones version of the website or the app. You don't add too many bells and whistles. We did the same for the book. We wrote a minimum viable book. It was like a 1 hour read. It was like 10,000 words. This is like 70,000 words, 80,000 words.
Yeah.
That was like 10,000 words. It was the core concept of the book. That helped us get the book deal.
Wow.
So we did exactly that. We applied our knowledge to the book, and that's how it became successful.
Brilliant stuff. So tell us about, I guess, your readers. How did your readers connect with your work? In my mind, I'm thinking, how does the Muslim reader connect to your mind? But you're telling me this is mainstream. So Muslim and non-Muslim, Arab, non-Arab, wherever they are connecting to this book. So tell us a bit about the demographic and the biggest demographic that connected with your book.
Yeah, so interestingly, it's hard to know. All I know is who gets in touch with me. That's the thing about getting a traditional publishing deal. Rather than me selling it on my website, I would get the name and email of everyone who bought it. Selling it through bookshops around the world, I don't know. I just have a drop in the ocean of a feeling of what emails come in, what people reach out to me on.
Interesting.
And it's really varied. Okay. One of the earliest emails I got is like a Swiss banker who was in his 50s, 60s, running a big holding company, telling me, this stuff is great. I was like,
what?
Whoa, this is like, how did you hear about the book? He said, it was on Blinkist, which is this book summarizer. Then he liked the summary and then he bought the book.
I've got that.
You've got Blinkist, yeah.
I've got Blinkist,
so Blinkist actually did a summary really early on when we launched the book, which was quite cool. I don't think the most opportunities came from YouTube, actually, not from Blinkist. But yeah. So in terms of who connected with us, I think because Ash and I really shared our own personal stories in the book.
Right.
And so some people connected more with Ash. We're both Muslims, both grew up in UK, sort of London. He was in Birmingham, then London. We had different unfair advantages, I guess. I kind of come from a bit more, I went to university. I come from a bit more of like, we were kind of not so financially well off when we were younger, but then we became okay as I got older. He grew up in a very poor family. So there's different unfair advantages, different things that people connect to in the stories. He did a big successful like startup stories. Mine was more like a lifestyle business that made a passive income and I was able to travel and have that freedom. So it's like kind of different things. So people connect with my story sometimes people connect with Ash's. I hear it in the emails I get.
Did it help having a co-author?
Yes. I love having co-authors. In the book, we recommend having co-founders in a business partners essentially. Business partners are great and similar to a co-author because you want to balance out each other's strengths and weaknesses. So where I'm weak, he's stronger. Where he's stronger, that's the best way to do it. You were asking about working with friends. Often with friends, you'll have similar strengths and weaknesses because you have so much in common.
Yeah, you do.
And that can be a challenge, but not always. Sometimes you have a lot of different differences as well. And the key is not to work with somebody who's a clone of you, because that actually doesn't help. You just clash heads and you just want to you both want to do the same task and you both want to not do the same task. Whereas you want to get kind of the different type of personality.
And would you carry on working with a business partner or?
Yeah, I do that with all the kind of businesses that I work in. I try and find a partner. My first business would actually be me by myself. But even then I had I talk about it in the book, I had an accountability buddy.
Okay.
He was starting his own business in a different field and we were just kind of would meet together. would kind of share notes and just encourage each other because it's just a lonely journey.
Yeah.
So writing a book, starting a business, very lonely journeys.
It
And you
is.
kind of want that encouragement, you want that sounding board. It's very difficult to do on your own.
So you mentioned the Swiss guy in the Swiss bank.
Yeah.
Was he in Switzerland?
He was in Switzerland, he was in Zurich.
Aside from that, any memorable kind of interactions with your readers?
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool. I get emails all the time of like, oh, this changed my whole trajectory. This changed my life. Oh, I realized something about myself. I found my own unfair advantages. There was a girl in Japan who who used the book as her thesis for her business degree.
Wow.
It was like, that's really, really cool.
That is
so there's a
amazing.
lot of really cool stuff. It was like some business, I've spoken at business schools since then, which has been really cool.
I was going to say, look, what happened to your life after the book became successful in terms of traveling and speaking and internationally?
So funnily enough, I did a bit more in-person speaking before the book came out because of lockdowns.
Okay.
So then I did some over Zoom. All those things were cancelled, and we thought, okay, this isn't going to work out. I was going to speak at Oxford. I was going to go on this big podcast of one of the Made in Chelsea guys. It all just went away. I went, okay, what's going to happen? But then it went really viral on YouTube, and then I started working with YouTubers, and then it became like they would talk about it as how to become a successful YouTuber, find your unfair advantages, and use that.
Wow.
And so it started applying in all these different fields, and that was the cool side to it.
Who came up with the name?
That was Ash.
Oh,
Ash
was
came
Ash?
up with the unfair advantage.
Okay.
So the initial concept came from Ash, which is like this idea of unfair advantages. But it was like, I came in, because I'm a bit more like, I poke holes in things.
Yeah.
So I kind of go, wait, what about this? This one doesn't make sense. This bit doesn't work. This one, and I kind of made it logically make sense. And I kind of added to and developed the framework. But yeah, it was a joint effort. And
It's an oxymoron, right? If I'm
exactly.
right.
Yeah, so that, I think that's part of the success of the book title.
Yeah.
Titles are very important. Is that it kind of, people go, huh? There's a bit of
Unfair,
controversy,
and then
unfair, and then unfair advantage. Exactly.
Yeah.
People think of it as a bit of an oxymoron. And so, yeah, it's, yeah, alhamdulillah.
So aspiring writers out there,
Yeah.
what's your advice to them?
So if it's like, so there's different types. You could write a novel.
Yes.
Writing a novel is a different story. It's a, the story is what drives things.
Yes.
And it's like people have to read the whole book to see if it's any good, etc. Like what I mean by people is literary agents, or if you self-publish, then it's difficult to get traction. Not being a novelist, I think, is a more binary. Like, will you be super successful, or would you just kind of fall flat? It's quite difficult. Non-fiction books, there's a few different genres, but I like the big idea non-fiction. So you can do biography, that's kind of a narrative, that's still a story. But I like the big idea non-fiction. That's what this book is. It's a big idea non-fiction business book, technically. So big idea is like you have one main concept that you're teaching, and then you break it down further, you give examples, you have maybe a model inside, maybe you define a problem, you give a solution, and then you add to it and how to apply it. So I recommend people to think of what is the concept, what's the big idea. Imagine, so I gave a TED, you showed a bit of the TED talk where I was like a little bit nervous, I was a bit nervous in those days. But TED was really useful because it allows you to really distill what the idea is. To give a good TED talk, you have to have one main idea, and you have it maximum 18 minutes. And so you have to be really focused and you have to practice it. So a big piece of advice I give is sign up to do a TED talk. See if you can apply to go and give TED talk somewhere, because that will then maybe turn into your book.
So were there any lessons that you learned along the way that you wish you had known when you started up this venture?
Yes, a lot of things. And I actually, there's so many things that pop into my head that I don't know where to start. I think I shared most of it. The idea is that you have to really understand, be crystal clear of what you're trying to say, which is actually, it sounds straightforward, but it's not.
Very difficult,
it's quite difficult to really refine, and that's where the years of like part-time kind of thinking about the book came in. Once you have that solid, the writing is not that difficult.
Because something that I learned in sales, and you probably know this as well, is like you need to explain what you're trying to sell to, say, a 10-year-old. And if it makes sense to a 10-year-old, then it's going to make sense to an adult. So simplify as much as you can so people get the idea, right?
That's one of the biggest things is conversational language. Use conversational language to write, not formal language. Didn't try to be fancy, didn't use fancy words. Keep it people are not impressed with fancy words.
Man.
Just keep it real. And that shows the more you can simplify a complex thing, the more that's a sign of like you've understood it well.
Yes.
When you can't explain something simply, that means you haven't understood it well enough yourself, probably. So I think that's the key. Avoid jargon, avoid these complexity.
Yeah.
Complexity is not a good thing. Simplicity is a good thing.
Okay. Lastly, I guess in the limited time that we have, what's any upcoming projects that you're working on, or a sneak peek into what we can look forward to?
Yeah, so the publishers really want me to write a second book. The literary agent, they keep trying to set up meetings. I'm like, listen, I'm not interested in writing a second book now, because most people don't read. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is, like, I feel like I've been there, I've done that. I want to do something different. I'm a big consumer of YouTube. I've mentioned YouTube a few times. And so I'm writing kind of video essay / documentary style videos for YouTube. And that's what I'm working on right now. It's going to be called Success Decoded. That's the name of the channel. And I'm going to break down success stories. It's almost like deep dive case studies. The first episode will probably be Mr. Beast, of how did he become so big? He's like the most successful YouTuber. How did he become successful? What can we learn from his story? But also, what were his unfair advantages that we can't replicate? And so that's the key.
Fantastic stuff. I'd love to carry on the conversation. It's been fantastic with you so far, Hassan. Thank you so much for your time. And inshallah, our paths will cross in the future.
Inshallah.
Thank
Absolutely.
You. Thank you, Hassan.
Thanks for having me.
So that was business coach, author, expert when it comes to writing books, The Unfair Advantage. Many thanks to Hassan Kopper for his time. Now, coming up after the break, we will give you a rundown of the latest Shia and non-Shia news, courtesy of our friends at Shia Waves. That's after the break.
عباس عمره 7 سنين بابا ميت مستقل بابا أريد بابا بالعد يشتري لي سيارة.
Sanad wanted an SUV, and thanks to your donations, we made his dua come true with Imam Hussein charity. Look how happy he is. A smile like that costs nothing, and for these guys, it's priceless.
Let's make sure no orphan feels left out this Eid. Donate to our campaign and help us bring a smile to their faces.
Welcome back, dear viewers. If you've just joined us, genuinely, you've missed one of the best conversations that I've had on Morning Baraka. Many thanks to Hassan Kopper for his insight into how to publish a book. Now, courtesy of our friends at Shia Waves, I give you a rundown of the latest and most pressing news that came to us this week. First of all, we start in Pakistan, and large numbers of Shias in Pakistan have called on the candidates for the upcoming elections in the country from the Shia community to work in 3 important areas to serve marginalized groups, namely education, employment and health, and to make them a priority. In interviews with Shia Waves agency, Shia citizens in Islamabad, Quetta, Balochistan and other Pakistani cities said that the marginalized and poor groups in the country have not received adequate support from previous governments, and this requires the candidates for the upcoming elections from the Shia community to work on supporting them and granting them their full rights. They added that 3 important areas that need to be worked on, namely education, health and employment, are what should be focused on in the coming period, noting that they are placing this great responsibility on the shoulders of the candidates in the event of their victory in the legislative elections. They explained that education is of great importance that must be undertaken in order to educate our nation better, in addition to the importance of supporting health facilities, building hospitals and providing the necessary treatment for patients, in addition to providing job opportunities for young people. Pakistani Shias, including leaders of a number of tribes, urged those who will win parliamentary seats to work according to Imam Ali's will to his governor in Egypt, Malik al-Ashtar, on the rules of governance and preserving the rights of the people. Pakistan will witness the holding of legislative elections, which a large number of Shias consider an opportunity to obtain seats and political representation to serve the Shia community, in particular the people of their country. Now, staying in Pakistan, a court has sentenced, and this is massive news, a Pakistan court has sentenced former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his close aide, former Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, to 10 years in jail in a case related to the leaking of state secrets. Khan is currently already serving a 3-year jail term after being convicted of corruption. He, however, has called all charges against him politically motivated. The court established under the Official Secrets Act found Khan guilty of misusing the confidential cable sent by a former Pakistani ambassador to the United States. Khan has repeatedly denied the charge, saying the document contained evidence that his removal as Prime Minister was a plot hatched by his political opponents and the powerful military, with help from the US administration. Washington and the Pakistani army reject the accusation. The sentencing comes a week before the country's general election, which Khan is now barred from standing. Syed Zulfikar Bukhari, a spokesman for Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf PTI party, has said that the PTI will challenge the court's decision. Now, staying with Islamic current affairs, a recent Boom Lives analysis has revealed that the Muslim community has been the target, or the primary target, of misinformation and disinformation. Echoing the results from the previous reports, the analysis has also revealed that Muslims have been a target of fake news since 2021. The analysis, which has been published in 3 languages, stated that out of 1,190 published fact checks, 183 fact checks targeted Muslims. Misinformation about international events ranked second, accounting for more than 17% of all fact checks. Nearly half of them were related to the Israel-Palestine war, followed by the France riots in June and July, which accounted for 8.4%, and the Russia-Ukraine war, which accounted for 4.2%. Communal false claims followed closely behind, accounting for 17% of all fact checks, with this category, 16.3%, actively promoted Islamophobia. Now, moving on, many international aid organizations confirmed on Wednesday that they are increasingly concerned about the deteriorating humanitarian situation in Yemen due to the complexity of delivering aid to millions of Yemenis. In the latest development, the Aden Chamber of Commerce and Industry issued a statement in which it discussed the living and economic conditions in the country. The statement said, "We monitor with great sadness and pain what the situation has come to and what has befallen the citizens of poverty, hunger and misery, which has reached the point where most of the population can no longer secure their food needs." The statement added that the food of many families is limited to 1 meal a day that barely fills one's stomach. Considering that situation will inevitably lead to disasters and economic and social disruptions. It also pointed out that these crises have become imminent and are looming on the horizon. Now, moving on to South America. As the biggest exporter of halal protein in the world, Brazil is now aiming to attract Muslim tourists, a group that generates an income of $238 billion per year. According to reports, the current number of visitors to South American country coming from Muslim-majority countries is rather low. Sao Paulo, Brazil's major economic hub, for instance, welcomed only 21,000 tourists from Arab nations last year. The Secretary General of the International Halal Academy, which offers training on halal products and services, told media outlets that both Sao Paulo state and the federal district, where Brazil's capital city, Brasilia, is located, are making efforts to become Muslim-friendly tourist destinations. Sao Paulo has a highly diverse population, including a century-old Muslim community and several mosques. It's the major getaway for Brazil and the most important destination for businessmen from the Islamic world. Now, the last segment of today's fantastic show is on this day. Tomorrow, which I believe is the 22nd of Rajab, if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow, on that day tomorrow, in the 7th year of Hijrah, the Battle of Khaybar took place. Okay? It didn't take place on just one day, there was a couple of days. But the Battle of Khaybar, the opponents in this battle were the Jews of Khaybar. The chief of the fort of Khaybar was Marhab, as well as his brother Harith, who were well-known warriors of the area. Now, we know both Marhab and Harith from what? From the narrations of Imam Ali alayhi salam defeating them in the Battle of Khaybar. However, there are little known facts about the Battle of Khaybar, which is the Muslim army suffered this degradation for 3 days. And one of those days, the degradation, by the way, is the defeat that the Muslim army kept suffering at the hands of the Jews, specifically Marhab. Now, one of those days, Abu Bakr, the companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the so-called companion, Abu Bakr took a contingent and attacked Khaybar, but he returned defeated. In the same way, Umar launched an attack twice, but both times returned completely unsuccessful. It seems that Marhab and Harith were great warriors of their time, because Umar could not bear to face them even for a short while. And it's narrated that Umar used to return every time and blame his companions for the cowardice, while his companions used to hold him responsible. You might be wondering actually, where is Imam Ali during these 3 days and the difficulties of the Muslims? He was back in Medina as he had sore eyes and apparently not fit to participate in war. Yet still he did accompany Rasulullah, and he came to the army of Allah and to offer his services. The Prophet then said, "Tomorrow I will hand over the flag of the Islamic army to a person who is brave and who does not flee from the battlefield." That is one who is absolutely courageous and never bolts from the field. One who loves Allah and the Messenger, and Allah and the Messenger love him. He will not return till Allah does not grant victory at his hands. The next morning, the Prophet put his blessed saliva onto the sore eyes of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he was cured instantly. He gave him the standard and permission to fight in battle. Then the famous lines were said by the Prophet, "Call Ali, the one who shows extraordinary wonders of God. نادي عليا مظهر العجائب تجد عونا لك في النوائب كل هم وغم سينجلي بولايتك يا علي يا علي يا علي." And we end this program, this show. We look forward to seeing you on Monday, but we end this program on this blessed Friday by saying, "Oh Allah, please make the beginning of this day of mine righteousness, its middle prosperity, and its end success." Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
have a duty towards the preservation and the propagation of the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Indeed, one of the best ways to work towards the reappearance of Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farajul sharif is through promoting the values of Karbala. Imam Hussein Media Group is the only Shia television network that broadcasts globally in 5 different languages: Arabic, Farsi, Turkish, Urdu, and English. We are appealing to the lovers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam worldwide to support the channel such that it may continue its global operations. Imam Hussein Media Group is seeking 1,000 partners to pledge to a £14 contribution per month. This will allow the channel to sustain its operating costs as we continue to spread the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in multiple languages across the globe. You be a part of this great legacy and donate today. You can pledge in 2 ways. www.imamhussein3.tv/donate will take you direct to our donation page where you can pledge monthly. Or you can call or WhatsApp us on 0044 793 9917163. Imam Hussein TV, your gateway to Karbala.
The mysteries of Islam fascinate us time and time again. This is no different from the life story of the Prophet. Who was Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam? An illiterate desert merchant who one day stumbled upon amazing Arabic rhetoric? Or was he the creation of Allah's greatest light, sent down to earth to pull man out of ignorance and bring them to the purest of truths. I, Ali Burji, am on a journey to discover the real story behind the Prophet, the real story behind our religion, the root, the beginning.